Hannes Steinbach is one of the best center prospects in the world. Let's lock in and find out why.
You are Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings. Your daily podcast on the future stars of the NBA. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings. Thanks as always for making us your first listen of the day. As always, my name's Albert Ghim, joined by my co-host, PhD in the pick and roll, and the pepperoni pizza, Corey Tulaba. Corey, it is the best time of the year. Like, it literally the best time of the year. All the major sports are going. We've got a beautiful mix of things. Now, college basketball exhibitions are happening. Corey, just how are you doing, number one? And then number two, how are you navigating this unbelievable season where we've got all the sports going on right now?
Well, luckily, I don't care about any other sports besides basketball. Like, I like other sports. I don't care about them. A lot of the Giants fans in my life are, up and down, good moments, bad moments. And I'm just like, all right, we got a quarterback who we think is good. We have some fun players. Like, we got some of the hard part done. Like, we'll figure it out down the line. It's not a rush. But for basketball, there's nothing better, man. Like, all these exhibitions, catching up, having some kind of real action. Like, next Saturday, I'm going to St. John's, Alabama. Like, I'm just excited that we have actual basketball going on. I love scouting the high school stuff. I think it's so pure because a lot of the numbers are a lot more noisy than we get where, like, with the official college or international numbers. And it's a much more pure art of scouting, I think, at times. But man, I need that real going on. And with the NBA games, the rookie class looks unbelievable so far. I mean, man, nothing, like you said, no better time than this.
Yep. It's truly an incredible time right now. As you mentioned, the NBA is back, ripping and roaring. A lot of really, also our group chat has been really lively. Everyone
on fire,
talking about the young players and the guys that they're interested in and all the college basketball stuff coming around the corner. We're super excited about. And in that spirit, Corey, of college basketball being here pretty much, right? We're getting very close. We're talking about a guy today that I am really, really excited to talk about, Corey, a player that has really caught my eye. I'm really intrigued by. I've already done a Twitter post. And Corey, like, I do these Twitter posts when I get excited about a guy.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk about Hannes Steinbach today. Corey, if you can you give us the essentials on Hannes Steinbach?
Hannes Steinbach, he will be headed to Washington this season. He measured at 6'9.5" without shoes, with a 6'9.5" without shoes at the 2024 Adidas Eurocamp. He's listed at 6'11" on Washington's website, so that checks out to me. He does look big. He looked really big in the scrimmage. Weighed at 229 at the 2024 Adidas Eurocamp. Didn't find a weight listing for him on Washington's website, just the height. But he also measured with a 7'1.75" wingspan and a 9'1" standing reach at Eurocamp in 2024. And if, who knows, maybe that, he's grown a little bit and whatnot. He'll be 20.1 years old on draft night. Now, some stats, a little weird, his season with Wurzburg, he was kind of bouncing up and down between the, main club and the second club. So his stats with the second club, 12 games with Wurzburg, 24.9 points, 12 rebounds, 2.9 assists to 2.5 turnovers, 1.6 steals, 2.3 blocks, 54.2, 31.5, 69.6 shooting splits, 58.5 effective field goal, 61.9 true shooting. He played in the U19s this summer, 7 games with Germany. Thought he was the best player on that team. 17.4 points, 12.7 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 2.6 turnovers, 0.6 steals, 1.3 blocks, 66.7, 22.2, 77.8 shooting splits, 68.1 effective field goal, 71.9 true shooting. So, he's really interesting. I'm excited about him as well. I think we're going to be excited about him, different player, but for a lot of the same reasons that we were excited about Thomas Haug. like stylistically, not that similar, but like mentality, I think for sure. But just like an unbelievably productive player who has a lot of strengths, some weaknesses. And I think it's going to be interesting to kind of dive into those.
Absolutely, Corey. And I think for me, just listening to, and I love when you go over the essentials every episode because it gives our audience and it gives me an opportunity to kind of get the larger macro snapshot of the player, right? And as I was listening, the number that really hit me kind of from his two data sets was the rebounding, Corey. And I know we're going to start with the offense, but I just wanted to kind of highlight that at the beginning to speak to the larger point that you made later on, where you talked about Thomas Houck. And when we talked about Thomas Houck, we talked so much about his energy, his aggression, the buy-in, the effort, right? That type of stuff. And I think we're getting a very similar vibe from Hans Steinbach. And when we get into now, Corey, his offensive game, we're going to see a lot like that effort and energy kind of covers every aspect of his offensive game. He's a guy that plays extremely hard and I think is an influential player on the offensive end as well. And so Corey, before I get some of your thoughts on his offense, some of the things that I kind of wanted to highlight that really stuck out to me. The first thing was his athleticism, Corey. And the way that I want to talk about it is I was so surprised by how functional, fluid, and coordinated he was for a guy his size. And I know he's 6'9" without shoes, 6'11" with shoes. Those guys that are that big, to see a guy that big move as well as he did, I thought was so impressive. Like that's the type of stuff that really gets you excited because then you start thinking, okay, what does this look like as he continues to grow into his body, as he gains his grown man strength, as he may even get taller, right? And maybe his wingspan continues to grow. That type of fluidity and functionality that you get with, and the coordination that you get with an athlete of that type gets you really excited. And also, like, we even talk about, Corey, in our group chat, we talked a ton about Victor Wembanyama yesterday. And that's kind of the reason why Victor was so intriguing as well, because he was 7'6", moving like a wing, right? And that still breaks our brains. And so with a guy like Steinbach, that was the first thing that stood out to me. And then there's some other things that I want to get into as well. But Corey, if you can, give us your initial thoughts and breakdown of what you saw from him on the offensive end of the floor.
Well, you mentioned his rebounding and you're like, oh, we will start with the offensive side of the floor. He's a great offensive rebounder.
Yeah.
Like he has a real great nose for the ball. He understands positioning. He looks for a body as soon as the shot goes up. And so he can establish position early. And that's really important if you're going to be a strong offensive rebounder, to be able to kind of like have the timing when the shot does go up on the possession to make that move before the defensive player who already has that, inside position does. And then he's got good hands. I think he has mitts. His hands look gigantic, which is, I think, part of the reason maybe his shooting is a little iffy, but man, yeah, the kid, like, insane rebounder, and that translates to the offensive end as much for me as the defensive end. He keeps possessions alive. He scores on second chance opportunities around the rim, where I think he's got like pretty good touch around the rim. And then you mentioned kind of like the fluidity and whatnot. Like, I don't know if he has the same kind of fluidity for a big man as like a Wemby or a Chet, who are like those lean, more, I don't know, slender men kind of, because he's like a strong dude, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously he's not quite as tall as those guys, but like he had a nice grab and go coast to coast possession versus Serbia in the U19s, finished with like a little spin at the rim. So like there is that coordination and fluidity that you mentioned. I don't think his handle is like super creative.
Nope.
But he'll get from point A to point B. He doesn't have like counters when guys rotate over, where he's like snatch backing and like getting to that. But as far as just going straight line, like he's super capable.
Yeah.
The shooting is a question to me. I mean, the percentages aren't great, but they're also not. I mean, like the 32% with the Wurzburg squad, not terrible. I think with the main squad too, I didn't want to read like every single list of stats that he's had in his career, because he started really coming on the last month of that season with the main team. Like they played against Noah Senge in the playoffs with Ratio Farm, like, and he was really good in that last month, like really productive. But the shooting, like, there are some shots where I'm like, wow, that looks really fluid as far as like a pick and pop kind of catch and shoot kind of guy. And then like in the exhibition versus UNLV with Washington, he had like 2 air balls from each corner that just like weren't even close. So I think the shooting is going to be a process, but like he's shown enough flashes that you can go, all right, like there's something there. And, with the high end comp that I give later on in the show, I think that's going to be an important aspect if he gets there. But other than that, sharp, quick decision maker as a passer, maps the court well, knows when to skip the ball to the weak side. He keeps the ball high away from guards, so he's not going to turn it over from little guys coming in, swiping down low. And then, he's a good finisher. You mentioned his athleticism. He can play above the rim sometimes. I don't think he's got like a super quick, like springy, like quick twitch, like from a standstill, like no step vert. But like when he has a runway, he could really get up. So he can be a lob target, finishes with both hands.
Yes.
He can play, like he's literally just palming the ball at times like Jordan, it feels like, and like placing it in because he's got those big mitts. I like him a lot at the next level. Is kind of like in that short roll area where he can make reads and then like also attack in those straight lines with that dribble and like finish and play through contact. So might be a really good snug pick and roll guy if we're getting in the weeds, off like handoff actions, closer to the hoop. There's a lot to like. He's not like, like the Şengün type of like post work, bag work guy. Like he doesn't have that kind of, like I said, like those counters even within that, but I do think he has good post work, like good footwork in the post. It's just not the creativity with the counters.
Yeah. No, I'm okay. Let me collect myself, Corey, just because my notes are so similar to yours that I'm kind of shocked, as always. But a couple things that I wrote here, just following up everything else you said. I wrote some shooting upside question mark.
Yeah.
And I think it meant the same. It's a maybe. It truly, genuinely is a maybe. I think it was interesting, though, to watch his film and to be like, oh, there were opportunities where they wanted him to shoot from outside, whether it was he was spotting up or, as we mentioned, off of like a pick and pop. There were opportunities where his coach and the coaching staff were kind of like, oh, we want you to take these shots, put them up and do what you can. Type of situation, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like don't freaking take threes.
Even
right?
a little bit in the Kurt Thomas area, not quite the elbow, but a little bit, maybe not the most efficient shot, but comfortable he looked.
Right. Another thing, you mentioned the hands. I wrote soft hands catches everything. Like not only does he have giant hands, but you know how like some guys might have giant hands but then can't catch.
They're
like
stones.
He's got very soft hands. Very good hand-eye coordination. Does a really good job. To your point about the post work, right? Can finish over either shoulder, either hand, very comfortable, but also he's not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's not Hakeem Olajuwon. He's not one of these guys, right? So he's comfortable there. He knows what to do, but he's not getting into the lab and breaking you down, as you mentioned, like a Shane.
Yeah. No spin cycle, no dream shape.
None of that. Not even a Jerome James baseline drop step. You know what I'm saying?
The 5-year, $25 million man. Is that right?
Something that I did want to mention, though, that I liked about him. I know before I mentioned like his athleticism. The thing about his athleticism that I agree, he's not Wemby, he's not Chet, but there is a lightness to his athleticism that I really like for his size. And something that I really enjoyed, where there are a couple of drives to the rim where there was a big to contest and he would like contort his body and like, kind of turn his body or whatever and reach over. And I was like, oh, that is very flexible and like really good body control for a guy of his size. And you mentioned, Corey, in the short roll, there are a couple where they threw it to him in the short roll. He's coming downhill. There was one where he literally just took one step and he was at the rim. Nice finger roll. I was like, beautiful. Like to be able to read that, react, and then to so effortlessly and gracefully drop that in the basket. I was like, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Really like that. And so overall, Corey, and I think our comps are going to be very similar because of the way that we're viewing him. I actually don't view. I was excited about him, not because like I thought he was going to be, like a center of that ilk of like a Wemby or a Chet or a whatever. I see him closer to like rim running big who might do like other auxiliary stuff that'll get you interested and surprised once in a while. Like actually, I don't even name it because he's one of my comps.
I actually haven't even been looking at him as a pure center.
Okay.
I've been thinking he can play, and he's doing it this year at Washington. Like I think he's going to be able to play in dual big lineups, and I think his skill set will allow him to play more of like that traditional but more modern power forward as well as center. So I kind of think he can potentially do both.
For sure. And of course, like I think also that's possible because of some of the passing stuff that he has, the IQ, whatever. So yeah, I don't want to. My comp I think will make sense later because I think we're kind of speaking the same language. But yeah, he's a very interesting big who in his freshman season I hope will get the opportunity to not only just like be solid in the things that he's good at, but also spread his wings a little bit and try some of the other stuff. And I think that will make him a very interesting prospect, at least on the offensive end.
Totally.
With that in mind, on the defensive end of the ball, he's got a lot of interesting stuff too that we want to talk about. We'll get right into that after this break. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the number one business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. The thing about Open is that it simplifies everything and makes sure that you're not missing out on big opportunities. If you're a business owner, you get a lot of different calls from customers and vendors or whatever. You kind of want to make sure that you're not missing these calls and you want to kind of consolidate and have it all come in one place. And that's why OpenPhone is so effective. So see why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're also sponsored today by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnba. That's rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free. I need a timeout after that one, Corey. A lot of words.
Water break.
From Quo and Rippling. But Corey, we're going to be talking about Hannes Steinbach and his defense. And I think his defense, Corey, once again, like a lot of the good stuff we talked about on offense translates over here to defense. And there are a couple things that I wanted to touch on before we send it to you, Corey. I talked about the athleticism before. I think he moves his feet really well. For a guy his size, very coordinated. I think he does a good job. In the system that he was playing right overseas, they put him in a pretty heavy drop, but I thought like he showed good activity and recovery skills. And there were a couple of possessions where they had him meet at the level. And I really liked how he was like low in his stance, moving. It didn't look like his feet were like going to cross over each other and he was going to fall and make an idiot of himself. Like looked very mobile, active hands. I was really impressed. Or like really, really impressed. And then like some of the rim protection stuff, just I thought was like really patient, stayed vertical, right? Did a good job of like timing his jump, stuff like that. And just, of course, like I don't think you want him guarding small guards all the time, but in a pinch, I thought he did a pretty good job in staying competitive and recovering and just like making life difficult for the small that he was getting switched onto. So for me, I just walked away just loving like the intensity and the buy-in and him just like utilize, like some guys have skill sets, Corey, but don't know how to utilize them. And I felt like for him, he was trying his best to utilize the skill sets that he had. And I'm not saying that he was a perfect defender, but just with his athleticism and fluidity, with the light, him being light on his feet and having the length that he has, I just thought he did a good job of being competitive with the skill set that he had and trying to be disciplined and trying to, not be foul heavy and whatever. not to say that it was perfect all the time, but just overall, like the spirit of him wanting to be good on this end of the floor and trying to maximize what he could on this end was very impressive to me. And so, Corey, if you could share some of your thoughts about what you saw from him on defense.
Yeah, I like that it seems like he almost always has his hands like high and wide. Like he's making himself bigger than he actually is. Like if you have a great wingspan, like that's cool. But if your hands are at your knees or on your sides, then your wingspan, you're not utilizing it, right? So it feels like he's already like putting himself in a position to maybe not get blown by as easily or be able to contest because his hand's already up so he can get vertical easily. And if he is a smidge late, like he's not going to get caught for a foul just because his hands are already high and he's not like in the process of raising them. So I did like a little like nuance like that. I thought he had good hands and I think he's going to win with disruption defensively. Like in that drop, I thought that like he was good, like because he's got his hands wide, he's got good reaction time, and he gets low in his stance. So like when he is in that drop and he is backpedaling, I thought he did a better job as like breaking up a play off a pocket pass or like picking, like swiping away at the ball or poking away at the ball, versus like going in like making a big pay for it and like when he's backpedaling, playing cat and mouse. Like I do think he could improve to kind of like make the ball handler make the decision instead of letting the ball handler make the decision for him when he's backpedaling. When he plays it more towards the level or maybe a couple of steps below where he's not in a deep drop, it's a little better. But like when he's a little deeper and he's forced to kind of like guard somebody with momentum, I thought there were a few possessions that I watched where I was like, I wish he was more aggressive, kind of trying to make a decision versus letting the offense dictate it. But I don't know. He against UNLV, I thought he looked good on switches. Going back against Rachel Farm Ben Saraf, who was a first round pick, second round pick. Was he a early second round pick? They had so many
first.
Picks.
I think he was first.
Yeah, like I thought he had a really nice moment in the playoffs where he was on an island, slid with him, and then blocked him like towards the rim. So there is a lot to like. Like I said, I don't think he's got like the weak side rim protection, quick twitch, 2-9, one step vert, punch it kind of athleticism. But I think he's got like, I'm not giving up on the play. I'm trailing and I'm going to come from behind and block it. I think he's got good, like, I think he's going to win with his hands defensively. I don't think he's going to have like a monstrous block percentage this year. And I think he's going to win with his physicality and his brain and his feel is how I think he's going to win.
No, I love that, Corey. And I think overall, and something you mentioned, the ratio farm thing, he made Ben Saraf like really think about him a couple times.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned that block, but there were actually a couple blocks that he had on Ben. And like, I felt like he did such a good job of not just, and like the blocks are important. We talk about
forced
like
into his right hand.
Right, Corey. And like we talk about rim protection a lot and I think people think like, oh, it's just block shots or whatever, but like he makes you think. Yeah. Right. For these smaller guards, like there's an intimidation factor with him that, if you come into the lane, you have to consider that Hannes Steinbach's going to be there. And I can't wait to see what that looks like on the college level this season. Like I really do believe he's going to be that type of influence on the defensive end of the floor where, Corey, you mentioned he may not be like this springy, I don't know, who's a good example? Mitchell Robinson, right? Mm-hmm. Jalen Duren, I don't know, right? One of these guys, but he's going to be very capable as an interior defender. And I think he's going to make life difficult. And he's, as you mentioned, good with his hands and there are going to be deflections and all kinds of stuff. So I can't wait to see it. And I want to see the growth aspect. I love the breakdown you just gave us about like the cat and mouse game and him in a heavy drop and, going backpedaling and how he's reacting to that. Would love to see more of that this year, to see him grow and to use these reps to get better before he takes it to the next level. And so, I think we've got an NBA player on our hands, Corey, and I think he's going to be really good. And I think he reminds us of some previous and current NBA players. And we'll get right into those comps after this break. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I don't own a Peloton, but my mother-in-law does. It's one of her ultimate flexes on us, and she loves it, right? She can use the equipment at home. She can do the classes and follow the instructors and whatever. And it's an incredible system for her to get her exercise at home and to benefit from it. And I think if you're interested in something like that with this new program as well, let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, Corey, we are back. And we have been running through this one today on Hannes Steinbach, but we're going to do some comps. And there are some guys that I think remind us of his game. And so, Corey, if you can share with us some of your comps for Hannes Steinbach.
All right. So more of like a lower end comp, Arkansas Jalen Williams. Because I think he's, like good passing feel, maybe not like the most intimidating shot blocker. Really, really good defensive rebounder in college, Jalen Williams. I think he had like a close to a 30% defensive rebound percentage, like crazy. Good work around the basket, maybe not like the most adept floor spacer, but shoots them and, has carved out a role on a title team. Even if he's not a starter or a consistent starter, but has gotten spot start opportunities. Another guy, Mo Wagner, maybe, a fellow German brethren, who also has carved out a nice role as like a really solid big on what last year was a good, and the years prior was a good NBA team. And this year has struggled early, the Magic, but he's somebody who I think shares like a lot of like similar skills as well as a skilled big. And then the high end comp, and this is why I thought it was interesting for the shooting projection, potentially. And I do think that at least at the college level, he's probably got better defensive potential just because he's in shape. Chin strap Kevin Love.
Okay. Wow.
I think in college his rebounding might be so good that he might have some pretty ridiculous numbers. And I mean, Kevin Love, even before he was jacking up threes all the time, was still like a ridiculously dominant player early on in his career in mini. I mean, he had that 30 game against the Knicks, I believe it was, right? I don't know if he's as polished offensively or he'll get there. But, and this is why I thought he can play power forward and center and kind of swing between them. And he's taller than Kevin Love. Kevin Love was like 6'7.5" without shoes, with like a 6'11.5" wingspan. So he's bigger. But I don't think he has the same shooting projection.
Right.
But if he's somewhere in between like those guys and like where Kevin Love ended up, like that is a hell of a player. And this is a kid who I think like we should at least talk about him potentially being in like the lottery combo.
Yes. Yep.
Like, cause he has very little like weakness, like very few flaws, like definitely things he needs to improve on. But like, as far as like, this is a weakness, like he's pretty solid across the board and he's just unbelievably productive, like played well against real pros, like dominated his age group. Like maybe not the most traditional center that we think of, but yeah, real freaking good.
Yeah. Corey, I think the last point you made is so important because I think his foundation is so strong that even with his weaknesses, he can be a day one contributor on the NBA level, wherever he gets drafted. I think his floor is so high with what he's able to do already that you'll take those weaknesses and just give him the time to develop on that stuff. But he can contribute from day one because he's going to play really hard. He's going to rebound the hell out of the ball. And then he's going to play a pretty simplified role offensively to start, but he can grow into that. And with that in mind. So for me, Corey, I thought of guys that can do some stuff with the ball, but also they're not doing it all the time, can play in multi-big lineups, whether as a 5 or a 4 or whatever, or maybe the guys that I pick, maybe you're not playing them ever at the 4, but like they can play with another big because they can do stuff with the ball in their hands. I actually picked 2 German guys as the high and low, but
Okay.
also like I feel like the lower German guy is going to end up like the higher German guy. And I think you might know where I'm going with this. I was thinking of Isaiah Hartenstein and
Hmm.
Ariel Hukporti.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of like these because Hartenstein with the Knicks and with OKC, like the reason why he's so valuable is like he can be like traditional big, but also he's got like this great touch on his floater that like
Mhm.
he can so consistently go to, and you just feel like it's going in all the time. But then also you can throw him the ball and he can like dribble a little bit and run handoffs for you very competently and like make passes from the high post. Like there's this other auxiliary stuff that he has that just makes him so much more interesting than just a rim runner. And I think
I thought he was going to shoot it when he was coming out. Those
well,
Draft Express videos had me in a chokehold.
yeah. Yeah. And when he first came to the Knicks, his first season, he was actually taking threes, wasn't making a lot of them. But then we get a guy like Hukporti, who is now with the Knicks while Hartenstein's gone. And Hukporti is doing a very similar kind of rendition of what Hartenstein did, but he's just not getting as many minutes right now. But a guy who also has great touch on like his little push shot, floater shot,
Mhm.
but also gives you a lot of like rim protection, plays really hard, just really competitive. And so my thing with Steinbach is like, oh, if he's going to shoot it, then he'll obviously, I think, be a level above these guys. But at least at the bare minimum, like he could be a guy that ends up getting a 70 million, 90 million contract one day just by being so solid as like a defensive player, but then also adding a little spice to what he can do on the offensive floor, even if he never shoots it really, really well.
I
Right.
mean,
Like a Hartenstein.
Hartenstein made what's he 30 million a year, right? Like he
Right.
got paid. And
He
he's
got
been
it.
undervalued for a long time. Like
Right.
when the Knicks stole him, they
I
stole him
was,
on that contract.
yes. Yep. Yep. I was through the moon when we picked him up in the Knicks, and he was incredible for us for 2 seasons. And I'm really happy for him that he's finding success for the OKC and just won a title, whatever. But when I look at Steinbach, I'm like, oh, he could be maybe this type of player one day, this really interesting big that can do more than just be a big, if that makes sense. And so we really want to thank you guys for joining us for this one. A player that obviously Corey and I, it's not a very complex game, but we just like his game a
A lot of
lot.
intricacies, though.
Yeah, there's some nuance, right? And we're really excited to see the type of player that he ends up becoming when he reaches his ceiling or his final form or whatever you want to call it. But we really want to thank you guys for, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. We've got another exciting pod coming for you guys on Friday, another really exciting player. And so we will see you then. As always, I'm Albert. He's Corey.